afterwards. So we had a question about how do you implement sexual healing when it's connected to religion and spiritual trauma?
Spiritual trauma.
Big question.
Woo! Okay. After collective sexual healing, spiritual trauma. Woo! Easy. Yeah. That's a question or anything more around?
Yeah, that was a question. So just how do you implement sexual healing when it's when the pain, I guess, is connected to religion or spiritual trauma?
Yeah. Wow.
And another question was which might help lead you in is sexual healing helping in getting back one's libido?
Second question first. Hell yes. But it's a libido for life. I mean, if we are honest, all of us went through so much stuff. We do not need to be highly sexually traumatized in order to relate to, whoa, my life was kind of tough and not everything worked out very well every day of my life. So we are deeply in love with life anyway. And this kind of juice and this kind of excitement and this kind of radical aliveness that we are will be reawakened. And that is, I think, to be honest, this is libido. But if we expect from ourselves to be hot on the sex that we see either in porn or in Hollywood, maybe that's just not my individual sexuality. So why should I feel any kind of libido and desire for this sex or that sex? These are two concepts, and I am a unique universe with an own sexuality. So I like to say, for example, that there are so many sexualities on earth as there are human beings on earth, because that gives me the space. And if you figure out your sexuality, you will have libido enough for your sexuality 24/7, just because it doesn't put you into stress. So your absence of libido is a super wise symptom of your nervous system saying, I'm not turned on by something that I'm not turned on by, just because this is not my design. My design is having my unique path to orgasmicness, to aliveness, to say hell yes to life. So let me quickly cover the first question. First of all, to be honest, I would prefer to not talk about religion, because it's such a vast topic which has so potent facets, so many facets, being deeply into divinity, into transcendence, into liberation, as well as into guru power abuse in all of the spiritual scene. So I just want to make sure or clear, I'm talking here in words with my small horizon, and I can listen to this question with, wow, what a universe where this question comes from. Also around spiritual trauma, but there is something that I can say a little bit more about. And still, if I try to give some kind of answer, it's about you pushing it away the moment you feel like, no, that's just not what I'm coming from. So, and thank you for the question, because I think that's a highly important topic as well. Spiritual trauma. Let's say trauma is some kind of disembodiment after a highly stressful situation. And to me, if I'm asked personally, the deeper your embodiment is, the more your spirituality will be unfolded from inside out, in the same way as your unique sexuality will be unfolded from the inside out, just by you bowing to the soles of your feet, praying to your nervous system. So me personally, I do not need the goddess or the god outside, because whatever is outside is also inside. When we talk about a spiritual scene, and I'm somehow qualified to do that because I'm sitting at the moment, as I already said, in Berlin, and Berlin is like the global capital of the free spiritual scene. So here is like, it's such an overabundance of awesome offers around spiritual practices, traditions, meditations, etc. And what we can see there also happening over and over again is some kind of disembodiment. Also, when we call it just sitting there, observing myself and meditating, it can be so close to disembodiment that I'm sure many people do not meditate, they disembody, just because this is the culture that they are coming from. And now somebody else tells them, in order to get enlightened, you also need to meditate. I mean, that's a super simple example, forgive me about that, but that's the kind of structure that I see there. So sexual healing is not about another implementation of a better sexual concept into your head, the better definition of how to be feminine or how to be highly attractive as a man. It's not about all of that here. It's about you being allowed to even forget your name and that you are a man or that you are a woman. And I want to also quickly mention the huge amount of trauma around us having to decide in this culture if we are men or women. That's insane. There are so many sexes as there are human beings on earth again. So it's kind of brutal what we do to ourselves in terms of language, and then expecting from our inner tigress, inner tiger to fit into that small prison or cage. So in order to work with sexual healing and not tapping into a reactivation of a spiritual trauma, which is in any case some kind of disembodiment just because it's trauma, and maybe the even more because we connect it to above and not to below. The more we want to avoid this risk, sexual healing is about bowing to the sensations in your legs, in your feet. And yes, I'm sorry that that is in the beginning kind of numb and kind of boring. It's the end of the bad party. Yes, it's the end of the bad party. Your self-image dies. Your kind of manipulation game dies. All of that dies. And after that, there is an orgasmic beauty of the nervous system inside where you're like, oh, wow, okay, so now the good party starts, which is mainly defined by feeling fully safe and nourishing for you instead of burning you out. And just with a small prompt of burnout, it's not only us women who are somehow like, I'm giving too much, etc., etc. Every sex is so burnt out when it comes to trying to get along with all of those expectations from the media, from pornography, from Hollywood, etc. So there is an amount of stress in us around performance where I think our sexual metrics at the moment is burning us out instead of regenerating our nervous system and our glands, etc. So this shift is something where we can track where the good party is. Yeah.